All right. See, this is part of the reason why this is so important. Okay, so they're going to give name, grade, or year. They're going to give where they go to school and one statement from each of them that I want everybody to hear. All right, go ahead.
Hey, my name is Addison Kirkendall. I'm a senior and I go to school at Hernando. When I graduate, I want my youth group experience to have been a time being surrounded by people who helped me grow closer to Jesus.
Hi, my name is Heath Hammond. I'm in 8th grade and I go to Hernando Middle School. And when I graduate, I want my youth ministry to be experience, something that prepared me for an adult life and the temptations that come with it, and I look to God every time I have troubles.
Hi, my name is Gavin Walker, and I'm a freshman at Hernando High School. When I look back on my youth group experience, I want it to have been fun and enjoyable while still building a strong relationship with God. I want to have made memories, but strong and healthy memories with spiritual people.
Hi, my name is Jaden Edelman. I'm a sophomore and I'm homeschooled. When I graduate, I want my youth group experience to have been of value to the generations below me, for myself and other youth group members to have an impact in their walk with Christ.
Hey, my name is Braden Branning. I go to North Point Christian School. I'm a sophomore. And when I look back on my youth days, I want it to be impactful, physically and spiritually, and surrounded by spiritual people.
My name is JC Edelman, and I'm a senior, and I'm homeschooled. And when I look back on my youth ministry experience, I want it to have been impactful and to know that I have helped others look and follow Christ as I have been showed the same.
Hi, my name is Will Branning. I'm a freshman at North Point Christian School, and when I look back on my youth ministry, I want to be able to know that I gained enough theological knowledge to defend my faith and also be able to share my faith with others.
Hi, I'm Allison Denton. I'm in 8th grade and I go to North Point Christian School. I hope that I can remember my time in the youth group as a time of growth in my spiritual journey and in my friendships.
I'm Addie Solomon. I'm a junior at DeSoto Central High School, and when looking back on my youth group experience, I want it to have been something involved, something that brought everyone together and strengthened us as a whole.
Hi, my name is Justin Hammett. I am a junior at Hernando High School, and when I look back at my youth experience, I want it to be involving. I want everybody to feel like they're welcome here, and I want to be welcomed to adults and be able to be vulnerable with y'all guys as people are vulnerable with me.
Give it up for these panelists. Just so everybody knows, they were voted on by their youth group. They did a silent vote, and these individuals, of course, they were not discouraged if they felt like they could do this to vote for themselves. If they wanted to, they could. But the youth group as a whole picked these teenagers to represent them in this discussion today. If you are, go to the next slide for me. If you are in Gen Z, that's the teens, 6th graders included, would you stand right where you are? We're seeing what generations we got around the room. All right, thank you. You guys can be seated. All right, millennials, raise your hand. I'm one of them. So, millennials, okay. All right, Generation X or the Busters, where you guys at? There we go. The 80s folk. All right, good deal. Baby Boomers. All right. Let the church say amen. And I'm just curious, but do we have traditionalists in the room? Is Fred Wesson here? Betty Blythe here? Oh, there we go. We got a couple right here. Very good. Very good. We really tip our hats to you guys. Thank you for being here with us. All right. Next slide. I'm going to ask these teenagers some questions, and due to time, a few of them have been selected for each question. They have come up with their own responses, but here we go. Next slide. What is the church doing well and doing poorly for youth ministry in the church?
What we're doing well is that we, the church as a whole, have realized that our youth group can't do this by ourselves. Poorly, we haven't acted soon enough. We have said before that the teens have needed more role models, and not enough adults have stepped up to fill these roles. We need you to step up.
Ooh, okay. Next.
What we're doing poorly, I feel like that transition from youth the youth group to young adult ministry. I feel like once I do graduate, I'm more cut off from the youth group than a mentor to the youth group. And especially with this mentorship program that we're implicating, that it would show a lot of growth in the youth group especially.
What we're doing well at is I feel like we're doing well in supporting like via money or like, for example, Caruso. We've been fully funded for the past 2 years, but I feel like only on those days is when people actually show up. I feel like we only show up for the youth group like once or twice a year, maybe when there's like a big event going on, and not enough throughout the whole year.
Echoing what he said, I feel like with monetary donations, the church has always been so supportive of that for the youth group. But something that I think the church could definitely work on is just actively participating with activities with the youth group and finding out ways that you can get plugged in with the youth group.
Okay, thank you guys for sharing. You hear some positive things. We are a working church. We are a financially giving church. We need more hands-on ministry, according to them. Next slide. What do you feel? All right, be careful. What do you feel that adults do not understand about the teenage world? Let's hear it.
I feel like the main answer here is like when we're given these, we're exposed to a lot more stuff than you think. Like and it gets younger and younger throughout the generations go. And so when we're exposed to that stuff, we seem, I guess not mature, but we're more vulnerable to certain things.
Most of the time, I feel like adults don't understand that us teens have always lived with technology. It's something we've never been without. We don't really know life without it, I guess you could say. And because of that, we're overwhelmed with information and choices. I also feel like adults think that teenagers are like lazy and entitled or self-centered. And they don't realize that we can have the same work ethic that they do because maybe we just work towards different things than they do.
Okay.
Our connect with our phones is a different level than probably y'all's is. We grew up with a cell phone, with them around, with TVs around. And yes, y'all had it too, but there's a different level. With our phones, it's in a way our lifeline. That's how I text my friends. That's how I communicate with them. And y'all understand that, but at the same time, y'all don't understand how deep the connect is and how that affects other things, like my relationship with school, my relationship with what I want to do after school, with what I want to do with college. It's all centered kind of around a device, which sounds crazy, but at the same time, it's where are my friends going? What's going on with this? And it's so stressful and overwhelming to us, and I don't feel like you always realize that.
I feel that adults do not understand that communication is different in this generation, and you may have to handle the situation differently than you thought you would.
All right. How many of us remember when there was no iPhone? I do. How many of us remember when there was no cell phone? Okay. They don't. Their life is wrapped up in communication technology. Their first exposure. How many remember the Pony Express? Yeah, the book. I remember the Pony. Yeah, right. All right. So when they have their lives here, they have not known a day without the internet. We have known a time when there was no internet. They don't know that. Sad but true, and even one of the more negative things about what all they're exposed to. That's why they are getting fed every bit of politics. They are getting fed every bit of how one's image should be. They are getting fed a lot of pornographic stuff at the click of their thumbs. It is stressful. And in their world, social media is everything. That's how you earn status. That's how you earn life. Now, that may seem crazy to us, but this is their generation. We need to be mindful of that. And then also, I would echo what Allison said, is that there was a time we were all teens, and people of the adult generation didn't understand us either. So, When you are dismissed, next slide. When you are dismissed, shamed, or unrecognized by adults, how do you feel and why?
When I'm dismissed, shamed, or unrecognized by adults, it makes me feel alone and that no one cares. It feels like adults just say they want to be involved but don't really want to help us through the problems that we're going through. It feels like I'm just constantly being proved wrong and told what to do, not provided insight or any actual help. It is as though adults ask for respect but don't really provide us respect back.
There's a feeling of unbelonging. Like at times after something will happen, I'll just be like, oh, like you have to take a step back and be like, oh, maybe I don't belong there. Or it's just like you want to shut down out of fear of the situation. And afterwards, looking back on it, you're like, what am I doing here? It depending on what happened, you're almost like, should I leave this? Should I leave this situation? And it depends on what the situation was, but it's something you don't want to feel or face again because of how it made you feel. Because you don't want to continue going somewhere that makes you feel unwelcome or shamed or unrecognized.
Especially if it's in the church, I feel like there's a big level of ignorance that's there. Because if you look at a well-known verse, 1 Timothy 4:12, it tells you to not let anyone put you down because of your youth. And if you as an adult in the church are going against what the Bible says, and that pretty much most of y'all know that verse, so if you're actively dismissing or shaming or unrecognizing one of the youth just for speaking out, then me personally, I would just call you ignorant. And that's not to any of y'all personally, but that's just how I feel.
When I'm dismissed, shamed, or unrecognized by adults, I kind of try to like laugh it off and don't let it bother me, but sometimes it'll get to me and I feel like I'm not respected and understood. So I'm trying not to say anything to that certain adult again because it did not end well on my part the last time I did.
All right. And you can hear that when what they are needing from you as an adult, someone present, someone who cares. By the way, I want to clarify, there's a difference between guilt and shame because disciplining your child is not wrong. That is a form of love. That is something that God expects of us. And God sends us guilt because when we do something wrong, we have to pay recompense for that, or someone does. That's why we have Jesus. But what shame is you are bad. Or when you hear the shaming message, it's not I did something wrong, it's I am wrong. I am the problem. That's what's going on here. Okay, earlier, next slide, when you introduced yourself, you answered this question: what do you want your youth ministry experience to have been once you graduated? Next slide. What things do you need from the church to make this happen?
Personally, I need mentors. I need people to show me that example to help show others Christ and to help them want to follow Christ. I can't do that all on my own and know how to do that if I don't have someone showing me the right way how to do that.
I think one thing I think of is that support with words and prayers go a long way. So actively showing us that you support us and that you're with us really does go a long way. And then just continuing to pray for us and pray for this youth ministry, that it would continue to grow and flourish.
Going off what they said, just the ability to connect to different adults other than my parents, because I see them every day. I love y'all, but like y'all can be too much sometimes. And I just need an outside adult who I can feel comfortable with sharing and being vulnerable with and not feeling shamed or dismissed by y'all. And it goes a long way. It truly does. And that's what I need from y'all in order to make my youth experience what I want it to be.
Okay, you heard it here. They are asking for your adult help. They are asking to be mentored and discipled, and for people just beside, not just their parents, to confide in. And it is important. Parents do have the responsibility to be a safe place for their children. Sometimes there were them moments where you did something or you needed to talk about something and you really didn't know how your parents were going to respond to that. That goes for us too. All right, boys, y'all come down with the handhelds. Justin, Braden, Gavin. I've got questions for the adults. And adults, we're only going to be able to take about 3 per question, okay? So if I don't get to you, it's not because I don't want to. We've only got 1 session to do this in. We still got a lot to cover. First question, if you were to define youth ministry in 1 sentence, what would it be? Youth ministry is, this is not, as clarification, what Jonathan does for a living, okay? This is, what is youth ministry to you? Okay? Hands up if you want to take it, adults. Got 1 here. Gavin, over here. Y'all help me point. Mike Reeves there in the middle. Do I have 1 more volunteer? Okay, we'll go with those 2. Let's go.
I think it's the training of the youth to deal with the challenges that they're about to face. Okay. Adults have protected them, as they should, up until a certain point, but there's a period, I say, between 16 to 19, so that it's our job as parents and as the youth group to prepare them for that slap in the face of, oh my gosh, I can't go have fun with the youth group anymore. I'm out of it. Now what?
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the youth, the transition has failed, going from the youth group that's so fun and that's great and it's supposed to be. Adulthood sucks sometimes. Okay. And for that transition, kids get lost. And I think that's why so many college students fall off from the church, is because they go from how great the youth group is, but they don't know that adults have fun. By the way, in case y'all didn't know this, we do have a lot of fun. We do have a lot of fun with other church members. It's a great life, but I think we have failed showing them that, hey, there's life after the youth group.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Phillip, and I want to comment on what you said here in a moment. Mike, would you answer for us?
I can do it in 1 word, impressive.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you something, young folks. Y'all blow me away. I don't know what terms to use that you would understand as much as I do. When I was your age and my peers in church, all we were interested in was the next ball game or the next party. As far as church work was concerned, that was something that we were forced to do, that we dreaded, and when it was over with, thank goodness, now let's get on with our life. It was separate. And y'all don't do that. And every Sunday I see y'all and think, wow, what makes these young people so mature and such good Christians? I wish we had that.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for that compliment of them. Yeah. Miss Becky?
The youth ministry is the life of the church.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, if you don't have young people, a church is dead.
We've got to keep it going, don't we? So to me, what Jonathan always was kind of taught, and what I believe youth ministry is going back to something Mr. Phillips said, which is dealing with preparation. It is training our young people to be Christians in the here and now, but to be Christians in adulthood later, and be Christian adults and the influence there. Okay, here we go. Same question. I gave this to them. I want to hear from you, and we want to hear from you. What is the church doing well and doing poorly for youth ministry in the church? Let your hands fly so I can see them. What is the church doing well and doing poorly for youth ministry? Miss Noreen? Take a couple more. All right, Mr. Bill. Anyone else? Okay. Go to Mike. Sorry, I can't take everyone. All right, here we go. Ms. Noreen, go ahead.
I am so proud of the work of this youth group. I am so proud of our leader, and the church is really doing a good job because we scout out the right person to deal with our children. And then it's up to them too. The one thing that I would like to see is some kind of program where we develop a youth and an elderly my age type person to be mentors or to be, you know, get closer together. I mean, you can pass some of these people and they never smile or say hello to you. I try to say hello to everybody. I don't know about everybody else in here, but I try to speak to everybody. You've got to do a one-on-one and trade up, you know. I've said lots of times in our Tuesday morning class, we need to draw names or something of the people that want to be involved.
To build that connection there, huh?
And then change up every 6 weeks or something.
Okay. And point noted, and thank you for saying that. That is transitioning us to where we want to go somewhere in this class. Mr. Bill, go ahead.
Well, as somebody who's worked with youth at one time, 100 years ago, I know we're really good at throwing money. You know, y'all come up with a plan, man, we'll support it. We'll throw money at it because that's easy. It's easy for me to whip out my checkbook. I look at that group there. I've never seen this many ladies on that stage at one time outside of Vacation Bible School. Proud of y'all. I know your parents, okay? Everybody up there, I know your parents. I love your parents. Some of your parents seek me out to get a hug every time we're here. I know most of your grandparents, or a lot of your grandparents. Some of your parents were in a youth group that Tom Cox and I ran here, okay? But I don't know y'all, okay? The names, I ought to know every one of your names. I know who all you people are. You know, I remember kin folks that y'all probably don't remember yet. But I've got to get to know y'all. We've got to get to know y'all. That's my fault. And I apologize for it. I ask you for forgiveness. Some of you I know, because I reach out and I smack you, I hug you, I love on you. I want to love all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Bill. Appreciate you for your honesty. And Mr. Mike.
Yeah, I think they nailed this one in terms of their response already, in terms of money is not the issue. It's time and it's involvement and then getting to know that. And I also want to give a plug to small groups. Since we started the small groups, at least in our group, I'm getting to know the youth. And it's a rich experience. You know, just the other day, one came down and Taylor McMillan. She came down and she said hello, and she gave me a big, and I said, did you come to give me a hug? Well, we hugged. So, yeah. But of course you did. That wouldn't have happened without that interaction. So involvement is key.
Yes.
And I think what Justin and JC and the others said about what was going on is right, spot on. We just need to make an effort to get involved, and they'll be happy with us if we can just plug in.
And I appreciate you bridging that gap, talking about, you know, not only from your perspective, but theirs too, which is really great. And I appreciate everyone speaking out about the need for the relationship. Last question for you guys. What is something you wish an adult had told you when you were a teenager? What is something you wish an adult had told you when you were a teenager? All right, Lolo in the back. And Mr. Tom, run it back. We'll go in that order. Let's go, Lois.
That I was loved, that I was important, that they cared about me. Sorry.
No.
And while I have the mic, I'm going to say what I want to say. I've said.
Come on, Lois. Do what I paid you for.
I've said this to the teens and to Jonathan multiple times. These kids are awesome. Mark and I have worked with teens for a long time, and this is an awesome group of kids. They're not perfect. None of us are.
Right.
But they have brought me so much joy and love since we've been working with them. The Sunday I responded to the invitation. Sorry. At least 6 of them came up and spoke to me. That's unreal. I don't know that they do that just, naturally to everyone. And that's not because I'm such an awesome person. That's just because of the love and the care, I hope, that Mark and I have shown them. So it's not only a blessing to them for adults to be involved in them, but it's a great blessing to the adult.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, while I got the mic, Jonathan is awesome.
Thank you.
Superior. I don't know enough adjectives, and he didn't pay me to say that, but he can later.
There won't be much, but.
Oh, do you need a raise?
Well.
Oh, okay, we'll talk about that later.
My elder right up here. You just go. No, I think, and Ms. Lois, thank you so much for being so kind to me and to the kids. And also, I appreciate what you said, that what you wanted was to be loved and seen. And that's something you wish you had had. Let's hear from you, please, ma'am.
Okay, I was going to say when I was a teenager, making this stride like our young people are doing, it would have been encouraging for the church to give me an opportunity to do what these young people are doing today, express themselves. You know, it would be nice for them to say, I see you, I see your struggles, and I'm going to be here with you to help you make this transition. And so this is a beautiful opportunity that these young people get to express themselves. And I thank you, Jonathan, for that.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And who had the mic? Mr. Tom, go ahead.
I think it's important that the teens know that no matter what they do or how they act or whatever you do, that you always can get forgiveness. And I think a lot of teens don't understand that. Like you say, you're hooked up on social media and you get slammed by all your friends. But just always remember, no matter what you do, God will forgive you. I think that's one of the most important things that I really didn't understand. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Bob, real quick.
I'd like to tell someone to tell me that there's only one thing.
Give it to him.
Only one thing that's truly important.
And then what is that one thing that's most important?
And I don't mean important about school or education or sports or anything else. Just one thing that is truly important, and that is getting to heaven.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. I'll give it to you, Miss Sally, this one time. I'm going to let you get it. All right, Miss Sally, last comment on this question, and then I got to move us forward. Not that I would get fired for going over time, but, you know, it is what it is.
One of the things I wish that would have been conveyed to me when I was a teen is that when the adults were teens, they weren't perfect.
Okay.
I feel like there should be more of a vulnerability of when you see a child going through something, if it's something you can relate to, that you can share your own experiences and not come across as you might have been perfect or better than them.
Okay. Thank you for saying that. That's true. Raise your hand if you're perfect. All right. Very good. Yeah, I know, Art. I know you're chomping at the bit over here. You're close, but all right, you guys go back to your seats. I want to remind everyone of youth ministry in the Bible with these individuals that are up here. We know about David being a shepherd boy and being used to take down a giant, becoming a king. We know about Esther being a young woman who, at such a time as this, was brought before to deliver her people from the emperor of Persia, and being a Jew and going out all on her own to do this. We've got Mary, who is a young teen girl going to carry the Christ child, and in an honor-shame society, having to explain all of that would be devastating and very scary. And then we've got Daniel being called in a place of captivity and then he is called to stand up to the king there and to be tested as a young man for God's kingdom, and he engages the kingdom of Babylon. Also, we have Timothy and Titus, 2 young ministers that Paul left behind, one in Ephesus, one in Crete, and ministry being a very difficult thing when you're young, but to be called to actually be told things like, appoint elders, you young man, and you set things in order. And remember, if they desire to be an elder, they desire a noble task into how these qualifications and a lot of things about how to treat the church and how they not let anyone look down on them. Remember the rich young ruler as well. This was a time for a young man who was very wealthy, and Jesus called him out and changed him, helped him become a little better. And, you know, the rich young ruler is like, oh, I can't give up my wealth though. And then may I remind us that Andrew brought a young boy to feed the 5,000. God used young people all the time in the scriptures. Next slide for me. All right, these next questions, and we got to move here, teens. I don't think I can really do adult answers this time, but some of these adults have seen this presentation and have commented on it. This has been shown to the elders. It has been shown to juniors and seniors, and then also it has been shown last year, shown to them, and then also shown to a hand-picked group of adults working with our youth called the GOAT Squad. I'll get to that in a minute. All right, here we go. The question on the table is for 2 of you. Describe this model of youth ministry in this church. Also, go and hit it one more time. What is right and what is wrong with this model?
I think something that is good about this model is that it actually has a youth ministry, and that church, and you know, some churches don't have youth ministry and their teens feel so disconnected from the church because they're in classes with people 10 to 20 years older with them, and nobody can get what they're saying because that disconnection.
Okay.
One thing that's good is kind of what Heath was saying, like there's a youth program and there's a young adult ministry, but there's also a lot of bad here. I mean, we're barely connected to the church. Our young adult ministry and youth program aren't even connected. And that was kind of like a big thing, was like, when I graduate from the youth group, I mean, it's kind of like we're just cut off from whoever's graduated. And this isn't a shot at Mr. Phillip. Like the young adult program, what he says and what he teaches in that class is good, but it's just that transition between high school to now I have a life, now I have a job, now I'm going to college, and then now I have to kind of defend on my own. It's not there. And that's kind of like the main reason I feel like for college students not going to church anymore. There's no mentorship, there's no discipleship, there's nothing there. And so I feel like we're just kind of cut off from the church after that.
All right. Thank you for sharing. This is the Mickey Mouse ear model, is what it is. Hit it for me. And this is meant to actually look like Mickey Mouse's head. You have the church in the middle, and then you have these programs attached like Mickey Mouse's ears. It is known in the theological circle, the youth ministry circle. This is not meant to make you laugh. It really is called the Mickey Mouse ear model because it's like the youth ministry is an ear. It is as if the youth ministry is there. They are connected in that way. We know that the youth exist, but are they really tied in to the church? So, next slide. A group of teenagers will more than likely appear each year in this model. He said this is it does have a youth ministry. In a church where you're going to have parents raising kids and you have a crop of kids come in, a crop of kids will leave the youth group, you're always going to have a youth program existing. As long as you got adults who are willing to work it, or you keep hiring a youth minister or whatever you do in a church like this, that's how it will be. However, many will leave or be overall uninvolved, which is what Braden was talking about, due to a lack of mentorship and discipleship. All right, next model. Now, these names, just so everybody knows, there's no significance. I just named people for 3 reasons. 1, I wanted diversity in who we are in our physical appearance. Also, I wanted diversity in generation, and I wanted names from Goodman Oaks. So I pulled just a whole bunch of names that you might recognize and put them in this model, okay? This is for 3 of you. Describe this model of youth ministry in this church and what is right and wrong within it.
When I look at this model, I see very little good and a lot of bad. The good are we're all in the church physically, and we seem to be semi-close, but on the bad side, although we are in the church physically, we're not together spiritually. We're not together like a body of the church should be. We need to come together as one big group, not a bunch of small groups that are just in the church. They should be together and connected, not apart.
What I think is good with this, that at least everyone's somewhat connected, even if it's not directly. Everyone has a gateway to another family or another person. But what's wrong with this is that even though everyone's close and everyone's somewhat connected, there's no room to grow with this model. Everyone is so packed in so tight, and there's just no room for spiritual growth or any type of newcomers too. Like, if a new family were to join the church, where would they fit in?
What I feel like is kind of right about this is that if you have like several families in that or whatever, it could be multi-generational if you've got parents, kids, and grandparents in there, and that is very good. But what I feel like is wrong is that most of the families are kind of connected to each other, but some of them are still not connected to anybody else. Like, if you even look at my little circle up there, I'm off by myself at the edge of the circle. I don't have anybody else to talk to outside of that little circle. And then that makes it kind of cliquish, and that's kind of sad.
Okay, so this is called the family integrated model. Also, as one of my teens at Holmes Road coined it, hit it one more time for me up there, the pepperoni pizza model. So, because it kind of looks like one. Family is the ultimate and central focus of youth ministry and the church. Many newcomers, though, as said, there's like not really any way to get in there. They will be neglected. People will feel marginalized, even in the middle of that circle, as was noted, some of us on the outside like that. There is ultimately no unity. Family should be focused. New people will not find a place very easily. People feel marginalized. And as one of my 6th grade girls at Holmes Road put and spoke out to the whole audience, she said, really, that circle should just be all blue because everybody is connected to everybody. All right, last model that we're going to go over. This is for 2 of you. Describe this model and what is right and wrong with it.
This is the most ideal model of the church that we have. If we don't have every part of the church connected, how will we become a unified body of Christ, to become a multi-generational church? Echoing what Jaden said, this is what we strive to look like in our church. And with this model, you can see that everyone is connected to everyone. So no one is left out on their own, and no one is, not connected to another family or another group. And in this, the youth group is a part of the entire church, and the young adult ministry is a part of the entire church. And so with this model, it should be what we want to look like as a church.
All right, thank you both for sharing. This is called the family adoption and family equipping model. You notice every circle is connected to every circle. Now that circle, each circle can represent its own ministry, but every ministry is tied together. That means all families, all generations, all these groups of people within a church, they are all connected together. Next slide for me. Well, this is how ministry is to work in the church. Now go next slide. Every group, class, and generation is interconnected in the church. This model takes an extraordinary amount of organization and work. It can also seem chaotic because a lot's going on. We know that. Everyone is ultimately discipled and included. The family adoption and family equipping model is most consistent with the original church and the relationships of God's people in the Bible. I asked the teenagers which one is most like Goodman Oaks in preparation for this, and not just them. This was in the entire class over the past 2 weeks. And a couple of them pointed out, they said, well, Mickey Mouse here. A couple of them said family integrated. Well, then they got to this. They said, if you took the family integrated model, the one that looks like the pepperoni pizza, put it in the middle of Mickey Mouse's face, that's probably what we look like. I thought that was interesting to hear that perspective from them. The way that this model works out is everybody's connected. It's something that takes time, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of work. And the reason that it's so essential, or the way that I said it was in the Bible, was because church and family was everything to the Bible and the people within it. It was life to them. That's why it's so new to us to hear this type of model. All right, I've got to rip and run, so here we go. Our goal here at Goodman Oaks is to develop a multi-generational, multiracial, and multicultural youth ministry. Several of you have stated you want everyone here. You have said that to me. You've also indicated that in this room. You've also said, and we have heard many times near every service, that no one walks alone. If that's true, then we have to integrate and disciple every person. Discipling was not, that's their job. Jesus said, go and do likewise. He said that to his disciples to go and do. It was not just for them. Yes, they had certain gifts and things, but discipleship is meant to be everywhere. If that's not true, then why is Paul writing whole churches real letters and saying, you disciple people, you stay unified and you work as a body to do this? We need to develop a youth ministry, a youth and family ministry, where the church adopts the youth. The parents and families have assistance in mentoring and raising their children. We always say it takes a village. Some of us have to be willing to let the church help. Some of us think my parenting is everything. That's not true. That's not even biblical. We've got to think about that. Now, I have a special question for one of our other young ladies who's going to stand and answer this question. What does adoption mean to you? I want you to introduce yourself too, if you don't mind.
I'm loud.
You're
Okay,
good.
I'm Aslan Pierce. Adoption is an important thing in my life. We adopted 3 of my younger siblings, and something that I've noticed is that we are all broken people. And in a metaphorical and sometimes non-metaphorical sense, we all come from broken homes and broken pasts. And we all need a safe person and a safe place to be welcomed into, where we can be vulnerable and still thrive. And so a lot of what the church does for us, and especially this youth group, is adopt us into our safe space. Whether we're perfect or not, struggles and imperfections and insecurities and all, there's somewhere where every person in this room can feel safe and can have someone to take care of them and to really just show them what the love of Christ is. And God does the same thing. He adopted each and every single person in here into his safe space.
All right, beautifully done. Thank you so much, Aslan. By the way, if you don't know Aslan, that is Jimmy and Vicky's other granddaughter, one of the other ones. So anyways, if you don't see her here, it's because her daddy has preached to us a few times, Jeremy Pierce, but she lives in Paragould, but she and Amish drive here and come and do youth group here, which is pretty awesome, if you ask me. All right, for greatest success, now I hope somebody's been reading the bulletin, and I hope somebody's been listening to a couple of sermons. I'm going to ask you as adults, just shout out a number here. For greatest success in retaining our our young people, each youth needs at least blank non-parental mentors. How many? 3? 5. That's what the expert Chap Clark says. 5, and a key word here, non-parental. Okay? Now, it's not that parents don't mentor. Okay? Some of us, again, don't think that I'm trying to take away from your parenting. That's not what this model is. But let me explain why this is so important. The research is showing us that youth ministry is shifting. What we have done is taken the YMCA model of youth ministry back in the 70s when it started getting popular, and we moved it into church. Now, at the time, that was relevant and it worked. But you got to keep in mind, that was the 70s. This is 2022. The I generation has developed. Everything's technology-based. Okay? It's not go hang out at the Y and have a Devo anymore. It is now, everything is fast, everything is moving, and it's only going to be discipling these teens with relationship. And research shows that what holds teens together to church the most is not the sermon, it's not a stab at Matthew, not the youth minister, not the teaching, not the preaching, not the worship, not even their friends in youth group. It's relationship with older adults. So I ask you, your question is maybe, well, how can I help? You've heard about this. So according to Brad Pitt, like he said in the movie Moneyball, which is fascinating, we've got to think differently. We are a poor team, and if we're going to get big dog players in here or win, we're going to have to think about how we do baseball differently. Our gap between the senior high and college and young adult in this church in particular, and also not just here but other places, is so vast, and we have so many people leaving the church. This is a problem. It is a problem, and we can't tackle it without your help. They need discipleship. They have told you on stage, without Jonathan saying anything, this is their hearts you're listening to, these teens up here, saying, I need other adults in here to hold me accountable because I've done watched young adults before me who were even in my youth group leave this church or leave faith. That's a problem, and they know it. So we've got to think differently. I'll put up here that quote, go back for me. Adapt or die. Now in the movie that's very blunt and forceful. That's a little bit of a joke in this case, but we have to adapt this youth ministry differently. Or, as was said, the youth program will slowly but surely start to dwindle. We have got to change how we do things. This has been a phased process. Phase 1 actually began when I first got here. That was my very first day, December 1, 2020. I presented this 3 times already, even before you. And the thing is this, we met a few of the goals that we had in mind, which were relationship building with teens and families. Pretty much know every teen and every family here, and several of them are connected to each other. Establish GOAT Squad, that's Goodman Oaks Action Team. It was going to be GO Squad, Goodman Oaks Team, but then Jimmy was like, well, I mean, you know, it's popular to say the GOAT these days, so just make it the GOAT Squad. I was like, not bad, Jimmy, I see you. So we did that. So that means greatest of all time if you don't know what that means, but we made it Goodman Oaks Action Team. And there is a group of people that is designed to already have a leg up on mentorship to these young people. Then the introduction of the mentor program. Now, the reason I put 2.5 out of 4 goals is because pandemic was what it was. And it's still here, but we are learning how to deal with it much differently. But we met 2 out of 4, established a leadership team. So now we're still in phase 2, which is a 2-year process. For those of you who know sports, how long does it take a coach typically to develop his own program, his or her own program? 3 years, okay? Youth ministry kind of works the same way. We in about almost the 2-year mark. Youth ministry needs about 3 years. Next objectives for this is establish the adoptive mentor ministry-based program. You are called to be mentors. We're also establishing a teen leadership team. They have already started, okay? And we're going to keep dwindling this and working on a group of people to help run the program and kind of be the leaders of the youth ministry. And then continue to grow a multiracial, multicultural youth group numerically and spiritually. That will always be an objective. It's a continued basis. So mentoring and discipleship. You may ask, well, how do I do that? I don't know what that is. Okay, it's very simple, and the thing is this, like we had small group training, we're also going to have mentor training, and a lot of it. You'll have to do about 3 or 4 meetings if you want to be a mentor. First objective for you is, you're going to need to let me know you want to be a mentor. You need to either come to me one-on-one, and what we can do now on Church Track is develop a form where all you do is follow the little prompts in the bulletin, click, 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 and you're a mentor, and I know about it. So then we're going to start establishing that mentor program, because in August, that's when we want to kick it off. Also, you may say, I don't know if I can be a mentor. Okay, well, let me just speak to that really quickly. If you have ever dealt with any single one of the lists that are called out in the Bible as problems, if you have dealt with mental illness, if you have dealt with a sin of things like drugs or alcohol, sexual stuff, pornography, marital problems, divorce, if you have dealt, not all of those are sins, I'm just naming some things. If you have dealt with being shamed as a young person, if you've been on a sports team, if you have done anything in your life where you as a young person got a little experience on how to do something as an adult, and you might could reach a teen, or let me just say this, if you are lukewarm at times and you're a sinner, stand up. I'm not joking. You can mentor. You can be a person for these young people. You may be seated. This is what it is. I know I'm going over time, and I apologize for that, but I only got one shot to do this. Those are my mentors right there. All 5 of them were in my church. None of those are my parents. One of them is like my second mom. One of those men took me, and he just spent time with me, and I learned how to change brake pads on a car. That is about the only thing I know how to do on a car, but I know how to do that. Another one, when after my father died and it was career day, I didn't know how to tie a tie, so what did we do? We drove to a small group member's house who lived in the same neighborhood that I did, and he tied my tie for me when I was in 7th grade. Don't tell me you can't mentor. I went to Ole Miss not all that long ago last season, and one of my mentors said he was going. I was like, I got to go see this man. Somehow I finally ran into him on the 50-yard line. He hugged me, embraced me. His wife hugged me and embraced me. That man, the day I preached when I was 18, said, I want to have you for a weekend. He took me to New Orleans, Louisiana. You don't have to do that, but I'm just saying. He took me to New Orleans, and he bought me a steak dinner, took me to the D-Day Museum, something I would never, ever get the opportunity to do again. Just be present. That's all we ask. When I was in youth ministry in Conway, that's when things went crazy for me, and I had to move. I had to leave because I tried to be the end-all, be-all for a bunch of teens. I thought Mickey Mouse ear was the only way to do it. I needed help, and I knew I needed help, but I didn't know how to ask. Those of you who know my personality, one of my biggest weaknesses is I don't know how to ask for help. I don't like to. So I'm asking for your help. I can't do this on my own. I'm 35 in youth ministry, y'all. That is old in youth ministry. I know that seems crazy to call myself old, but in youth ministry it is. I am an older youth minister, and I need your help. These teens need your help. Some of y'all don't want to see this next slide. I'm sorry. But hear me out. Some of y'all love it. Ole Miss, I'm sorry. But anyways, I went to my brother-in-law and I asked him a question because he's a very smart football coach, coaches O-line. And I asked him, I said, hey, how come Saban and a few other coaches out there, whether it's football or basketball or baseball, they just seem better than everybody else? He said, well, Jonathan, one thing is it's not about him, it's about his assistants. He has really good assistants. And don't think that Saban doesn't develop just players. He also develops people like Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin. He develops people to carry on programs. So I'm asking you to be assistants. This next coach, he said, hey, trust this process. Make sure that you understand it works and it will work. And it took him 3 years and they got 5 titles. This will work, y'all. And I want to move us along here. So many great things are happening at Goodman Oaks and more to come. Y'all saw Caruso. Y'all seen VBS. You've seen this Hispanic ministry, the small group program. Now you see the family adoptive youth ministry model. We cannot let this highly talented youth group down as a body. We all got work to do. These kids are begging you, and they are saying, I do not want to lose my faith. Amen. Because that is the one thing, as Mr. Bob said, that's what holds them here, is their faith. Don't you know when you got to college, whether you went to a Christian school or not, your faith got called into question. Mr. Randy, we can do this. We can do this. Y'all, if we rally around this, this is 10 kids right here. 5 non-parental mentors. How many people is that? 50. We got work to do. There's a lot of people in this church, and these are your other teenagers. There's a couple of sparse in these places. So, listen to my key concepts and I'm out of here. It's called fight. F, fill up the classroom on Sunday and Wednesday. I don't mean your own, I mean theirs. Be there for them. If you want a mentor, that's how you do it. I, we're going to initiate teams for each youth coming in August. G, I want you to be great assistant coaches, trainers, and managers. Just consider me the head coach who's going to help you do it and teach you how to mentor. H, handle your business. This one's tough, and let me tell you why. Because that means you've got to be self-aware of yourself. Because if you've got a lot of spiritual problems, you can't mentor very well. Just like if a minister has a bunch of spiritual problems, he can't minister very well. Handle your business. Also, we are in a time speeding up process. Everything is fast. You've got to move. I understand that. Church is life. It is. Keeps you connected. And T, make this your total focus. Disciple each youth of Goodman Oaks. Thank you guys for listening to us.